C'est bon! Welcome back to the channel. My name's Ken Johnson. This is kind of a life channel. We don't really have a niche here. Sometimes I cook, sometimes I do artwork. I'm an award-winning artist. Sometimes I talk about books because I'm award-winning author. Easy for me to say. What are words? Sometimes, fish, hunt. Also, I do a lot of cooking. And today is no exception. So one of my my viewers asked me a while back to do French onion soup because I'd done a chowder video. So if you haven't watched the corn chowder, watch that. It's bacon and corn chowder, really good on a cold day. But they asked me to do a French onion soup. Now, I don't do French onion soup in a traditional manner. You call this Florida man fishing, or Florida man French onion soup. So what I do is I do a New Orleans inspired, by way of Japan, French onion soup. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and please make this dish. For this recipe, what I'm going to do is cut up about 2.5 pounds of onions. This is 3-pound bag of onions. Once I cut the ends of it off and get the outer layer and all that, that'll be roughly about 2.5 pounds. So I'll use this whole bag, so I'd say 3 pounds total raw, undone. Once you're done and it's cut up, it'll equate to roughly about 2.5 pounds. 2 to 2.5 pounds, and you have to cut them in half after you've peeled them and everything, and then very thinly slice them. I'll show you that in a minute, but if you have like one of those salad shooters with a slicer, or you have a food processor or a mandolin, that would be an ideal solution for these. Unfortunately, I've got Ninja food processors, but unfortunately Ninja does not have the top load. And so I don't have anything that's top loading where I just feed it in. Otherwise, I'd let the electric slicer do the work for me. So I'm going to hand cut these and do them wafer thin, and then we'll get them started in the cast iron Dutch oven. When you cut an onion, first thing you want to do is cut the tip off here. Next we'll cut that tip. Now we'll cut along here to get this first layer off, like that. Next, looking at top and the bottom, see where all that is, got two little parts right there trying to grow, and then that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to go right about here and cut this down. And then you just lay it down like that and make very thin slices. And what you do is you hold your knuckles. Don't have your fingers out. Tuck your knuckles in so that you're running the blade up against your knuckles. Like I said, you want this to be wafer thin, super thin. Right here may look kind of like butter that's browning or whatever, but that is actually chicken fat. Enough fat to cover the bottom of this Dutch oven. Now I got a mediation that I've got to do in a few minutes, so what I'm going to do is get this up to heat and lit it, and I'm going to turn off the heat. And the reason why I'm doing that, I'm going to let the steam continue cooking the onions and reducing them down while I'm doing my mediation. After I'm done with the mediation, I'll continue cooking. You don't have to do this. You can sit and stir for hours and hours and hours to get it started. Another thing you can do is pop these in the microwave. Once you got them covered in oil, put them in a microwave safe container, pop them in the microwave, and that'll help you get a quick start on the caramelization process, because that's what we got to do now, is make caramelized onions. And if you've ever done that before, you know that this can take a while. I do not use sugar. I think that method is wrong to use. And this will differ greatly from a normal French onion soup because I'm using a New Orleans style method, and so it does differ a little bit. I'm using mostly chicken stock for my flavoring, not beef. I might use a little herbs de Provence, but that's because my wife don't like thyme that much, so I'm not putting thyme in there. I will put in bay leaf. We will use, not Pernod, but we'll use some absinthe. So there's going to be some differences from a traditional, but it's still pretty much a French onion soup. And also, I don't like Swiss cheese, so I won't be using Gruyere. I'll be using a Gouda. Alright, I've sauteed these for about 7 minutes. Now time to lid up and turn off the heat. And then it'll be fine to sit here for a good 30 minutes, hour, up to 2 hours. That's how long the mediation is. And then I'll come back. It's hard to see due to the condensation of steam, but what's happening here is that all the water is evaporating out, and I'm slowly getting little brown spots on the bottom of my pan. I'm trying to keep everything moving and from burning. You need to go on a low heat as you're doing this because this is creating all those caramelized notes due to the Maillard reaction. If you don't know what Maillard reaction is, that is nothing more than browning. It is when the sugars are breaking down and caramelizing in the onions. I've turned down the heat as this is starting to caramelize, starting to brown. Now if you wanted to, you could do this totally in the microwave. You could put it in an oven-safe container and put just a pinch of baking soda in here and stir it every 5 minutes until it caramelizes. But this right here will give you a greater depth of flavor. But if you have limited resources, you could definitely do this with a microwave. So this is cooked down to a chestnut color. Now I'm going to add in 2 cups of a dry, kind of citrusy white wine. Now we'll start deglazing the pan with that. So as we deglaze the pan, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3 tablespoons or 1.5 ounces of Mephisto brand absinthe. This is a New Orleans style caramelized onion dish, the French onion soup. And so New Orleans is definitely a Pernod town. And since Pernod is expensive, because you have to import it, this right here is a great substitute. So I'm going, like I said, I'm going to put the Mephisto in there as the wine is cooking off. Now I'm adding in 2 cups of chicken stock. That's my first addition of chicken stock. Now if you don't have Pernod or absinthe, you can use Sambuca, Ouzo, basically any anise flavored spirit that you like, and then add in about another 2 tablespoons of dry vermouth. I'll add in 1 bay leaf. I'll add in probably about a teaspoon and a half of herbs de Provence. I'm going to add in probably about a teaspoon and a half of McCormick's Peppercorn Medley grinder. If I was serving it for like a restaurant or something like that, or I was trying to be fancy, I would use white peppercorn. Now I'm going to add in about a teaspoon of sea salt. I'm adding in 2 more cups of chicken stock. Adding in 2 more cups of chicken stock for a total of 6 cups total. Totally optional, but a teaspoon of MSG. This stuff right here is what gives it the backbone it needs. This is where you want to adjust for your seasonings. I've already adjusted for seasonings. This is a very thin soup. If you wanted to thicken it up, you could add a little bit of cornstarch or mix you a little bit of flour and butter. What I'm going to do to finish it off is put a few pats of cold butter at the very end, and that will thicken it up. But for right now, I'm going to turn this off as I devote my time to croutons. As you might can tell, nothing about this recipe is authentic. I take liberties based off of what I've tasted in Louisiana and different places. I think this soup does best not with French style baguettes done as a whole crouton on top, but rather cut up my croutons with sourdough. So if you hadn't seen my sourdough bread recipe, go watch it, because this is how I make my sourdough at home. I think it adds flavor, and then I'm going to top it with some Gouda. We'll torch it, but I don't like Swiss cheese, so Gruyere cheese is out of the question. But now I'm going to toast this off in the oven. The sourdough croutons are ready. Now I'm going to incorporate about 2 tablespoons of butter cut up into little pats. Turn this off, but you can see it's still bubbling, and I'll include the cold butter in now, and that will cause it to thicken up a little bit. As the butter melts, you can see it's thickening up a little bit. It's still going to be thin, but not that thin. I'd say consistency of half and half milk, maybe whole milk, somewhere in between there is what you're looking for. So you still want to be kind of a thin milk-like consistency. Julia Child, instead of using MSG, she put in Parmesan cheese, so you could do that if you don't want MSG, but that's something she did. And she added flour to her onions after they had browned, and that would thicken it up. So if you wanted to do flour and butter, you could do that. You could add cornstarch, but I like it a little thinner. In keeping with the non-traditional theme, put a slice of Gouda on top before adding your croutons. I'll keep them from getting so soggy right before serving. With that, we put the croutons on, put the cheese on. Now, les bon ton brûlé. Torch this very quickly, just to melt it down. There you go, nice and torched, getting toasty. Here you go, my non-traditional New Orleans style-esque French onion soup. And I got a little bit of roasted chicken on the side. Alright, let's give this a taste. Just unctuous. A little sweet, got a good backbone to it. Pretty well balanced. This is the way that I like French onion soup. This is my way. It's inspired on the New Orleans way, which pretty much is God knows what. No, the absinthe really does bring it out. There's a little anise at the very end, very slight hint. You could go as low as, tablespoon and still get a good flavor. 3 tablespoons is money for me. If you want to do a happy medium, do 2. You could do that. This is your soup. You make it any way you want to. I've already ate with the wife, so this taste testing, I already knew what it tasted like. So, cause I'd rather eat with my wife and then come back and talk with y'all after we've had our meal. And one of the things I asked her, I said, do you have anything, any critiques, any comments that you want to share with the viewers? And she kind of held back a little bit, and I was like, what is it? If it's bad, I want to know. If you say I put too much absinthe in there, whatever. I have no ego. I can take criticism. And she said, I would never order this if we were going out because I would never get it this way. So I think that's high praise. She liked it. I love it. On a cold day, this is money. So stump that is how I do French onion soup. Thank you for asking me about it. I was able to find absinthe. I wasn't going to pay the no prices, but I got something with the Mephisto. There's another dish. It is very expensive to make. So if this video gets 1,000 likes, I need 1,000 likes, I'll make Oysters Absinthe Dome. If you've ever been to Commander's Palace, you know what I'm talking about. But that right there, it calls for like 3/4 of a cup of absinthe, plus the oysters, plus puff pastry, plus. It's a very expensive dish, very extravagant dish. I won't do it like Commander's does. It will have my own take on it, but I think you'll like it. With that, please like, share, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. It really does help out the channel. I know I say all the time, but it really does matter. The algorithm sees it differently than you just watching and then clicking on to another video. If you subscribe, they see you differently. If you like, they see you differently. If you comment, they see you differently. And that all helps us to get a little bit more revenue. It's just a tiny bit, but a little bit more revenue, so that we can get some of this paid off and, you know, kind of recoup some of our costs here and there as we can. With that, thank you for all your support. I really couldn't do this without y'all's help. And I'll see you again next time. Bye.